What's up?
What's up, guys? What's up? What's up? What's up? We're back again. We are back again. This is the Two Young Pastors podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Jawan Sanders, and I'm joined by my friend, my brother in ministry, Pastor Elijah Stanley.
Yo.
And we're so excited to be back with you all once again. There's a
Mhm.
lot going on. In our last video, our last episode, we had just some very candid conversation
Yeah.
about culture, especially race culture within our church, and there was a lot that took place.
Mhm.
And man, I can't tell you, there was so much fallout. There was so much fallout from that topic. I ended up like sending you the video, the reel that someone
Yeah.
took. And there were a lot of people who were just responding to that and that alone. But man, there's a lot going on in our world. But before we really hop into things, how you doing, man?
Yeah.
How was your Easter weekend?
Mhm.
Because that's what we
We were just talking
that's
about
just
it.
happened this past weekend. So
Yeah.
talk to me, bro.
Man, first of all, bro, it just good to see you again, bro. It's been a while.
Yeah,
We usually try to stay connected, but like the week just keeps going on.
busy.
And busy, busy, busy. But bro, Resurrection Weekend was amazing, man.
Yeah.
It was a busier weekend. I'm not sure if anyone knows the schedules of pastors, but generally, when you're in an area filled with so many churches, speaking assignments tend to be up and up. If you kind of meet those qualifications, and because I'm connected to Dr. Peeler, I really do think that a lot of my assignments come because of me being his assistant. So I got to give him the credit where it's due. And he was supposed to preach at this one conference. He wasn't available, so he then said, "Hey, my assistant could do it." And they looked at me. Apparently, they were already attached to our church. It was a Ghanaian
Okay.
young adult conference,
Yeah.
and attached to the general conference. And they had their 15th year anniversary being an organization.
Okay.
And I had the privilege of just speaking with them from Thursday to Sunday, and it was a Resurrection Weekend, man. So I was preaching about 1, 4, 5, about 6 sermons in about 4 days ish, and
Gracious.
yeah, well, Saturday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, yeah, 4 days, and one day, bro, was really three
Gracious.
sermons. Like I preached 3 sermons in one day, with like 15-minute gaps in between. One day did like like worship and prayer, and that was interesting, man, because it's always good to have good content,
Mm.
because content will push you through when you don't have any energy left.
Listen, listen, listen. Don't tell me you took one of those 5-hour energies to get you through.
I didn't. I didn't. I didn't. I didn't. I
You
didn't.
suffered. You suffered.
I suffered through. I suffered through, but God was so good, man.
Yeah.
I told them about our podcast, and they were like, "Hey, we would love to hear more about it," because a lot of the things that I spoke about, we covered in our podcast. I said, "Hey, episode this, episode that." We covered it in a bit more depth. If
Yeah.
you have any questions, you just put in our comments, and then we'll reach out to you, and we'll cover it in our next episode. So, man,
Mhm.
God's moving, bro, and He did a great thing. Resurrection Sabbath, bro, was amazing, bro. We
Awesome.
had
Awesome.
we had just
You're
amazing
so you're
people
so
come through.
Adventist because you're saying resurrection rather than
I
like
have
Easter
to.
than
Bro,
Easter,
the
bro.
reason I'm saying that, man, is the reason that the last video what got so big is because people semantics matter, I guess. Like a lot of folk are just like Easter, that's celebrated by the devil. And those that follow the devil. So we gotta so I'm just like,
Oh,
hey, you know,
well, those Christians they can follow the pastors that they want to subscribe to. You know. Um,
I actually do like the word resurrection better than Easter though. Like
mm,
I think it's just the meaning of it. I like that better than
mhm.
Easter. Like no,
I mean,
background.
it is more direct, like more
Yeah,
focused on that.
yeah.
So that makes
But
sense.
I also don't have a problem with Easter. To be honest, I don't.
Mhm.
I don't. I just like the word.
Certainly,
Yeah.
certainly. I can't help but comment on certain things because it's
Yeah.
kind of like I think we both grew up in conservative
Conservative.
spaces.
Yeah.
Probably more so than you.
Uh-huh.
Because we didn't give any, like I said before, we didn't give any credence to, like, we didn't even call it Resurrection Sabbath or Resurrection Weekend. Like, we focused on the fact that it was a pagan holiday that
Mhm.
had pagan roots. And for me, it's just like a, well, who cares?
Yeah.
As if it has pagan roots. You know, like, you can connect almost anything to something pagan.
Mhm.
But I like, nowhere in scripture does it say that if something has pagan roots that it can't be appropriated to have a new
Ooh.
meaning. Like, I'm just saying. I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
Y y
Like, I'm just saying.
No,
So,
man, but how was your Easter weekend?
I was actually injured. Unfortunately. Listen, you need to have proper form. You need to have proper form when you are helping people move. I was helping a friend, one of my church members, I was helping them move on Friday, and everything was fine. I felt good. And then, like, I started to feel a little weird, lower back region, and
Oh,
then I started to feel some pain, and I was like, hopefully it's not going to be like super bad. But no, no, it actually hit me hard. It hit me real hard.
no.
To the extent that Saturday morning, I couldn't really move. Every time I moved, it felt like stabbing pain.
What?
And I was like, I couldn't even sit up, like, because when I was sitting up, I felt it tensing up and tightening, and there was pain. And every time I tried to stand up after sitting straight up, I couldn't even stand up straight. It's like, if this is me,
Mhm.
I was like this. I was like this, right? And I was like, it takes me an hour to get to church. If I have to sit up straight for an hour,
You're
I'm
done.
gonna be no good. I'm gonna be
Yeah.
no good. Um, and so I didn't really celebrate, the Easter resurrection weekend.
Yeah,
I was here in
at
my
home.
room, chilling. And my fiance, she left church early, um, because she was like, well, I'm not going to stay here at church if my man uh
Yeah.
is struggling at home. So went to the hospital and all that stuff.
What?
Um and because I want they, wanted to make sure that it was nothing crazy that happened.
Yeah.
And the doctor, very kind. She was just like, hey, you just did not lift properly. You didn't lift properly. And you probably were lifting too much. Um and she just said, going to give you some muscle relaxers, some ibuprofen, some pain relievers, and we're going to let you rest. And so that's what I did. And it was like, dang, because I know that this is like my last Easter
Mm,
weekend with my church. I know this is
yeah.
most likely going to be my last one. And so I was like, dang, dang, dang. But, it was nice. I
Mhm.
was tired anyhow. And so really had an opportunity to just chill, relax, especially because last week was a tiring week. And so I was like really forced to sit down and chill anyway.
Yeah.
But it was cool. It was cool. Like, at my church, we had an amazing service. Like, the song selections and the speakers, they were great. They were really
Mhm.
great. And so I'm chilling. I'm chilling,
Yeah.
man. I'm
Yeah.
chilling. You
Man, so
know,
you said 2 things in that I wanna cover real quick. So you said
yeah.
that your fiancé.
Yeah, I think I said it last episode that I'm engaged, right? Uh,
Really?
I
Man,
think
I
I
think I
said it.
forgot.
I think I said it. I think I said
Say
it.
it again. Say
Me
it
and
again.
Janelle, we got engaged. Me and Janelle got engaged.
Hey.
February. I'm thinking
Whew.
about our anniversary. April 13th. It was very beautiful. It was amazing, bro. You know, we
Wait,
went
y'all got
to
engaged? Y'all wait, well, I'm so sorry for interrupting you, bro.
yeah,
My, my senses went off. You said you guys had an anniversary on February the 13th?
no, we have it. I was thinking February because that's when our anniversary is, and that's typically when, like, I'm telling people. But our anniversary typically is February 2nd, right?
Got it. Because I was like, February 13th, it's a bad luck,
That's a
traditionally.
day, right? That's a day, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I was like, "Oh, y'all are
No,
bold."
especially if it was a Friday. Especially if it was a Friday,
Right.
Friday the 13th. But no, 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 no. February 2nd is our anniversary. But April 13th is when we got engaged, and
That's
it was a
awesome.
very beautiful, very intentional proposal. You were there, had a
Thank you for
couple
the
of other.
invitation.
Hey man, of course, that's what we're here for, right? Had a number of friends, a number of family members that were there. I think it was probably 20ish
Yeah.
people and when I saw how many people were there, I was like, yeesh, there's a
Oh my
lot of
god.
people. There's a lot
Yeah.
of people.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, just a great time. And I was just happy that Janelle, you know, was really she was yeah, her response was more than I was expecting.
Yeah.
She was happy, like there was like some euphoria that
That's the
was
response you want. That's the response
yeah.
you want. Yeah.
Yes. She
Yeah.
she was really excited, and I was just like, "Yeah, let's go, let's go."
Yeah.
So, really grateful for it, really grateful. And yeah, we can call each other fiance now until we
Hey,
get married. Until we get married in a couple months. So,
that's
yeah,
awesome.
man, we feeling good, feeling
That's
good.
awesome.
Yeah.
The
As
second thing, yeah, yeah.
yes, I was gonna say, people have been saying like, you're growing up, and it's
Mhm.
just like, no, I've always been grown. I'm just getting married.
Just kidding.
Like marriage doesn't mean that you're growing up. That it's okay
Yeah,
for people not to get married. There are
that's
several
true.
people who are not married, and there are several
Mhm.
people who got married, didn't know
Yeah,
what they were doing, and got divorced. So like chill on
yeah,
me, chill on me. But yeah, what
yeah.
was the second thing? Second thing?
Man, you talked about transitions. You talked
Yeah,
about transitions. It being maybe your last Easter, um, uh, at church, man.
yeah.
And I'm I'm of the mindset, bro, that we gotta enjoy right now where we are. And
Listen, man. As much as possible, I am trying my best to really enjoy this season. Um because this season has so many firsts.
mhm,
But I understand, we've been at our churches for some time now. And you know, we understand that we're both getting ordained soon.
yeah,
And that ordination typically means, hey, you're ready. You're
mhm,
ready to go out on your own. And so I just understand that, hey, at a certain point, it's going to be time for us to be lead pastors of our own church.
right,
Um, and so I'm kind of sort of just preparing myself for that because I'm an emotional person. I mean, all of us are emotional, but I understand that no matter where I go, I make it home. And so Metro is home. Metro is home.
mm, yeah,
And I love the people so much. But I'm also realistic about the situation. And so I was thinking like, man, this probably be the last time that like I'm gonna be like the assistant pastor slash associate pastor here
yeah,
at this church for this particular holiday. Like I could possibly come back as like a guest speaker or something like that,
yeah,
but you know, and on the real, I understand
what's
what's
happening?
happening. What's
Yeah,
happening. So
yeah,
yeah, I'm truly am trying my best to enjoy these last moments, um, these last few moments. And the reason is because no matter what, all pastors have to grow, all pastors have to spread their wings. And I understand like the culture of our conference is, you know, uh, we produce lead pastors, we produce senior pastors. And so even like we understand that our assignment here at our first church was to learn from our senior pastors who were mentoring us. And
mhm,
I've had like a very unique experience because
yeah,
my senior pastor became the conference president,
right.
and I also had an opportunity to receive a second lead pastor.
That's true.
uh,
That's
that's
true.
something that a lot of people can't say they've experienced.
No.
So my pastor went on, and now I've had an opportunity to see how my new pastor really like how he is introducing himself to his new church. And so I think that it's been really good because I've been taking notes and saying like, oh, so this is what you can do as a senior pastor. Because I knew what I did as an assistant pastor coming
Yeah,
into Metro. But now I'm getting to see how I can operate as a senior pastor, as a lead pastor when I'm going to my next assignment. And so those things, they get me excited. But we never know what's going to happen.
No.
God can say, hey, um, you can stay here a little bit longer. So no
Yeah.
matter what
We'll see.
happens, I'm going to cherish um whatever God allows, and I'm gonna walk in that direction. So yeah, man, yeah. But this weekend was interesting. This weekend was
What
interesting.
happened? What happened?
I like it seems like social media always tells you so much. Social media tells you a lot, and so one of the things that ended up coming out of this weekend, I don't know if you heard about it, but Shannon Sharp,
I
um,
did.
he is an analysis. Of course, you understand that. I think it was last year. Oh man, time flies. Last year, he actually left show called Undisputed with Skip Bayless.
Right.
And what's interesting is that he left Fox and he started working for Fox Sports and he started working for ESPN.
Mhm.
And since he's been there, he's really just been blossoming and several different ways, like with his Club Shay Shay
Yeah.
podcast where he interviews people. It's a messy podcast. Um, in addition, with his late night cap show with Ocho Cinco,
Mhm.
Chad Ocho Cinco. There we go. Um, Yet something ended up happening, man. Something ended up happening.
What happened?
He, I'm pretty sure he's over his 50s, wealthy man, built man, black
Mhm.
man. Um, got into some trouble apparently, where he's being sued by a woman who was very young. Um, I believe she was 19 at the time of their sexual relationship.
Mhm.
Um, and I believe she's like 20 years old now. White woman, you know, and she is suing him for $50 million. $50 million. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, right? And essentially, I believe that is she's suing him for like some sexual misconduct or something like that, maybe assault of some sort. Um, and it's not looking good. It's not looking good, right?
That's insane.
Um, and so what it made me like realize, or what it kind of sort of brought me to, is like this situation where you typically see time and time again. Um, it's reminding me of like the Me Too movement, where um, women are coming out and they are kind of sort of exposing these professionals,
Mhm.
these A-list, B-list, C-list celebrities, and saying like, "Hey, you know, they're not as perfect as you might think they are."
Mm. Mm.
Some of them have like some bones in their closet. You
Yeah.
know, some of them are doing some things that are interesting. And what it got me thinking about is, how we as individuals really process through sexuality, and especially no matter if you're rich or if you are on the less wealthy end of the spectrum.
Right.
um, you typically always see so many trends where, um, I don't know about you, but individuals are not getting married, or if individuals are married, um, they don't remain married,
A lot. Yeah.
and then once they get out of marriage, they kind of sort of just frolic around. And now I'll say this because as believers, we do believe in like the institution, and we recommend, we uphold the institution of marriage, right?
Mhm.
Especially a marriage that has Christ at the center. Yet what you're seeing is that there are so many individuals, especially so many men, who are not desiring marriage and aren't trying to be married. And a lot of times, if we're being honest, there are more good wives than there are good husbands, if we're being honest, right? And so that's something that came up, and it really just got me thinking, like, man, what is it about, like, males? What is it about men that causes us to really um to lack maturity, and to lack wisdom when it comes to how we interact with women, in the dating scene and possibly even in the marriage scene. And so that's something
Mhm.
that popped up for me this weekend. I want to ask, like, did you see it? And what were some of your thoughts when you first heard about it?
Man, yeah, so I saw it on my Instagram feed, and then I saw it pop up on, Yahoo News,
Mhm,
where he was being accused of alleged assault or something.
mhm,
And then, usually I don't click on those stuff because 'cause I'm just like, "Ah, it's just, the topic of the day," right? But then when 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 his name popped up, I was like, "Yo, I kinda like him," right? When I saw the age difference, I was like, "Man,
crazy,
you
bro.
gotta be
Crazy,
better than that." Like, you
crazy, bro.
gotta like, what is it with wealthy men and younger women? Like, I understand the sociology behind it, but that is, like, as close to the edge as you can get,
Mhm,
right? Like, that is as close to the edge. It was, like, almost like he was playing the game of, like, seeing, how close to that line he could get. And
mhm,
I'm not sure if it's just because they've done everything that they could do, and now they're just trying to see what they can get away with, you know? And, I'm not that rich, right? So I can't think from that perspective. Like, having so much money that you can't spend it all, right?
yeah,
Like, you have everything you want, so now it's just experiences, right? So, like, I can't speak from that perspective, but there's a pattern though, bro, right?
mhm,
Of, like, really older men that are rich that go lower, like, really, like, skirt the edge of being 18,
yeah,
and that's what popped up in my mind at first, and even, like, pastors, right? Like, I think what we've seen in, like, the mega church context of, like, televangelists is, like, their wives are, like, flaunted. So, I don't know
mhm,
about the age difference, I can't speak to that because I don't know, but from the way that they walk on stage and the way that they do things right, it's almost like they're showing off their trophy wife.
oh wow,
So, I'm not
trophy
sure if
wife.
that has a like
You know, here's something that, like, I'm learning, right? And it really all comes to how we're socialized, because men and women are socialized differently. You know, from a young age, like, the theme, what's pushed down a lot of women's, um, what's pushed into their minds is, hey, you need to be a mother, you need to have a family, you need to be a great housewife, or a great wife. Doesn't necessarily have to be a housewife, right? But you need to be a wife, right? And so typically they're looking for relationships, right? Whereas men, what I've learned, and even I've been like a victim of this, or I've succumbed to this, can't call myself a victim. From a young age, we're like socialized to kind of sort of just experience women.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know if you heard of the show called Adolescence on
No.
Netflix. It's gotten really popular, but it's kind of sort of like, show takes place in Britain, I think. And what we saw is that there was a student, who was
Mhm.
killed by one of her classmates. I didn't finish the show. I'm like only episode 3 or 4, I think. But her classmate, about 13 years old, is the person who is the suspect. Um, and you wouldn't know that he would have done it until, like, you really began to, like, look at some of the details and some of the pieces of evidence that's being found.
Mhm.
Like, you would think that, oh, 13-year-old kid, he's fine, he's good. But no, no, there is like this thing where even at a young age, you know young men, teenage boys are being groomed to treat women and to look at women in a certain light. They're not. We're being groomed to look at women as objects that we can experience,
Yeah.
not people, not individuals, not persons that we can build amazing relationships with. And so what I've learned is that a lot of times men, we enter into relationships with women primarily because we simply want to experience what they feel like. We want to
Mm,
see
wow.
how they can benefit us, how they can help us, and typically help us
Yeah,
release. And if you understand what I mean, that's what I'm saying. And so a lot of us, we're taught to use women. And I don't know about you, but I went to public school,
yeah,
and it's no different in private school, right?
it's
It's no
not.
different because I went to private school for 2 years, middle school years, right? And the conversations were still the same,
Yeah,
where you're talking about like, "Hey, how can I get this girl? How can I get that girl? Oh,
right.
you haven't slept with someone yet? Oh, you haven't
Mhm.
had sex yet? Listen, you're not a real man if you haven't had sex yet. You're not a
Wow.
real man if you're not getting girls. If you're not getting pictures of them showing you nudes and stuff like that,
Right,
then
right.
you're whack.
That was a
You're
whole culture, dude. Yeah, yeah,
bro, and I forgot that that was a thing.
yeah,
Like, because I hadn't been in it in so long, I honestly forgot that this is something that exists to this day.
yeah,
And it's something that has kind of sort of been permeated in a different light because you got individuals like Andrew Tate and Aiden Ross. You got different individuals on like the manosphere, like Kevin
yeah,
Samuels, who kind of sort of like create content for a certain group of people, a certain group of men who are typically insecure, who
mhm.
typically don't get women. And because they don't get women and they are insecure, they end up hating women.
Right.
And they're teaching individuals how to devalue women so that they can put themselves up in a certain way.
Mm,
And so it's making me realize that we are so far from what
yeah,
God intended when He first created humanity.
yeah,
You know, and so that's what I really want to talk about today, bro. I want to talk about that today because um, I see that there are so many individuals, and we're still in the young adult spectrum, right? There are
right,
so many individuals who get on social media, they see friends or they see classmates dating or getting engaged or getting married and going on vacations, and there are a lot of people who are either jealous, envious, upset that that's not happening in their lives, and
right.
they want it to happen but they don't necessarily know how to really make it happen. And so, you know, that's what I really want to talk about, bro.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about today, man.
Man,
So
when you mention that, bro, like,
yeah,
I'm thinking, like, the church and this is me thinking out loud and processing through it.
yeah.
The church has made space for that, um, like,
Mm,
the idea of being in a relationship and then being unfaithful to it, right? Like, we've always harped on, adultery is bad, and if you're in it, then it's over, right? But how many of our pastors that have been caught in those scandals, right, have been forgiven,
yeah.
and then go right back into pastoring and into ministry, and they're all male,
Mhm.
right? Like, most of them are male, and they're forgiven, and they go right back into ministry, and, I'm not saying that the forgiveness act is bad,
Mhm.
but if we're allowing that within our church space, right, and we're trying to speak into a culture where we're like, "Hey, it should not be happening,"
Yeah.
do we take a harder stance? Like, what do we do to kinda regain that moral authority? Because we're asked to speak into culture, right? And really the stats between the world and the church are pretty much the same across the board, right?
Mhm.
Health, lifestyle, relationships, everything is pretty much the same,
Yeah.
right? It shouldn't be, but it's the same. So I'm trying to think through like we're called to speak into the culture, but
Yeah.
we're pretty much following the trends,
Yeah.
and that's rough. Like, how do we speak from a level of moral authority? Because we have it, regardless of what our actions are, right? We have that moral authority. Like, I'm not sure how we bridge that gap of hey, there's an aspect of forgiveness, but how do you not go back? And then, I yeah,
I'm gonna ask you a question, right? Um, Why do you think we create space for men, primarily men? Why do you think that we have created space for men to have these moral falls,
Mhm.
especially when it's sexual in a sexual nature? Why do you think that we've created that space or allowed that space for them to exist in the first place?
Man, there's 2 things that popped in my mind right away. One, because their personalities are charismatic. So, we
Mm,
we tend to show more grace to people that we know and connect with, right?
yeah.
So, think about current policies and politics, right? Like, we tend to show more grace to people that we're already aligned with.
Mm,
So there's really not much that they could do outside of a personal attack on you, right?
mhm.
That will make them lose your grace and your favor,
Good
right?
point.
So I think the first thing that popped in my mind is that they have incurred favor and grace with their congregations. So yeah,
Mhm.
they'll get sent away, for like a 5-month sabbatical, right? And yeah, they'll step down from their church, take a break, and then be like, "Hey, I'm gonna go and plant another church," and
Yeah.
then go and plant a church,
Yeah.
right? So and that's multiple people, not just one person, right?
Yeah.
They're just like, "Hey, like I can't do it in this place anymore. I still have a calling on my life, so I'm gonna go do it here," right? And then people tend to be attracted to personalities. And the second thing is culture, man. Like we have a double standard for males and females.
Mm,
And with males, there's just a lot more grace because um it's I hesitate to say that it's just because of the patriarchy. But I think that is a very large element of it,
I
where
think that's fair.
men yeah, like where men show grace to other men,
Yeah.
and the way that we're treated, like even between my mom, me and my sister, right? Uh, like most moms will show grace to to their sons than to their daughters.
Hmm.
And that is a pattern that's across, I think, every culture.
Yeah.
Like, their sons just have more grace
Mm,
because they see there's just this connection with the son, right? And then the daughter, again, this is a generalized statement, but it's pretty like the pattern is there all over.
yeah.
And I think it just carried into our spiritual spaces. We have to be more aware where God has turned around. He said there is no male or female, right, in Christ. And what it's saying is that it can't be used against us,
Mhm.
right? In our priesthood now, as we serve him. So man, like that's the two things that popped in my mind. How about you, man? Like what do you think allows that culture to grow?
Yes. One, I do think you hit it on the nail. Or you hit it on the head. Let me say this. Success will really like take you far.
Mm,
Like it will take you extremely far. And what I found is that like you can't cancel people who are so big that and so productive and successful that their success um suppresses the harm that they've done, right? Think about it. The people who individuals have tried to cancel, right? As much as cancel culture has been a thing, the only individuals who they could cancel are individuals who are not popular enough and not big enough
mm,
to overcome the canceling, right? Like you can cancel people who aren't big, but you can't cancel people who are successful. Case in point,
mm,
Ben Roethlisberger. I remember that he was accused of like sexually assaulting a woman in the bathroom, right?
yeah,
But he was killing the game on the football field,
yeah.
right? And because of that, individuals will forget. They'll forget, like, oh, he actually did do that. Like, he was accused of that.
I
Wow.
completely forgot. Yeah,
Like, but compare him to Deshaun Watson, who was accused of sexually assaulting several massage therapists, several
yeah.
women. Um, I guarantee you, if he had went to the Cleveland Browns and played his behind off, probably got them to the playoffs and probably won a Super Bowl, if he
No
would have
one would
been
have cared.
as successful as Ben Roethlisberger was,
Yeah,
individuals would have forgiven him.
yeah,
They would have. Even
yeah,
let's look at Donald Trump. our president, even him, like there was a whole trial last year
Yeah.
where he was caught doing like using certain monies to help pay for an escort. But it don't matter because he always wins.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like winning and success can really stifle like the harmful things that individuals do because we as human beings, we like to follow winners. We like to follow
Mhm.
winners. And so if you'll typically see that the pastors who get in trouble like who get into trouble like this are pastors who are really big.
Yeah.
Because they're some of the best speakers. Like you said, they're charismatic, they're visionaries, they're doing things that other people aren't doing.
Right.
And that draws a lot of people in. And it's also like let's have grace on the man, right?
Right.
So to that, but to your point on patriarchy, I'm a stake my claim on that. Like this is a pastoral ministry is a boys' club, and a lot of leadership positions in the world are occupied by men. And one thing that a lot of men can agree on is that we are faithful and we still understand the temptation to want to step out. Like we can be as faithful as we want to be, and our imaginations don't shut off. We can try to
Mm.
gain as much self discipline as we want, but if we see a woman with a certain body type that matches what we like our minds may wander, and
Mhm.
you can talk to other guys about that because they get it. They get
Yeah.
it. And so it's really a part of like the boys club that is really built in a lot of spaces, a lot of like the fraternity spaces that exists. And even in pastoral ministry, we find that there is a fraternity that exists that even though there are women in this field, it's still a male dominated field. And so
Right.
we can connect on that. And is the truth is that there are several individuals, several guys who have gotten into trouble themselves. They just haven't been exposed. And
Mm.
so like y- you can it's easy for a person to say, I feel you, bro. I got your back. When
Yeah.
you've possibly been in that type of situation yourself, you just weren't
Yeah.
exposed. And so you get it and you understand it. And also, I think a part of like the patriarchy, bro, not only does it make it so that we elevate men above women, but it also makes it so that we cause women to question their space in society.
Mm.
I like what's interesting because even when it comes to like the women's ordination debate within
Mhm.
our church, the Adventist church, doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all, because ordination is not a biblical thing. It is more of a religious tradition more than
Right.
anything, a denominational tradition. Uh, because if you're called by God, you're called by God, and you don't need ordination to be the sign that you're called by God. It is more so just a cultural practice that shows the people within your context that we are now acknowledging you're called
Right.
by God,
Right.
right?
Right. It's right. Right.
And yeah, go ahead. What were you going to say?
It's an affirmation, really, of the work that you've done, and it's a stamp of approval.
Exactly. And so here's the thing: we've had this debate, this ongoing debate on women's ordination for years. And I think the most damning part of it all is that there are women who have drank the Kool-Aid and said,
Mm.
we don't women shouldn't be ordained.
Yeah.
And the reason why they drank the Kool-Aid is because they've been listening to their husbands, their fathers, their friends, who let me just be honest, right? And I'll die on this hill. There are a lot of men who secretly dislike women.
Mm.
They like their mom, but they do not respect women as much as they
Mm.
respect men.
Man.
And they're not open about it. And the
Yeah.
truth is, Elijah, there are individuals who aren't even conscious of the fact that they view women and men in different spaces.
Yeah.
But you can hear it in how they talk about certain subjects or how they say, see, They make different subtle comments. See, this is how you know women can't drive. This is how you
Yeah.
know women can't lead. This is how
Yeah.
you know women can't discipline or can't
Yeah.
do this or can't
Yeah.
do that. And
Yeah.
they critique like women and make it a general thing when it's only, well, this is just one person, but you're
Yeah.
making it the whole sex.
And it's it's generally different, right? And I was just talking to someone about this yesterday. I was like, there's a difference between making those jokes, realizing that that's not your perspective,
Yes.
right? With friends, right? And with other females that you're close with, right? And then that being an underhanded comment, right? There's a complete difference, and I think that's where people get it messed up, right? Is that when people talk about these issues, we're not talking about it in the sense of you playing around and joking and it not being where you're coming from. But
Yeah.
there really are individuals that will say it and they'll mean it.
Mhm.
And they are not saying it as a joke. They might be covering it as a joke, but they're saying it to be mean and they're saying it to be intrusive, and a attacking phrase. And because I'm saying that as a disclaimer because there are people that will hear what we're saying, right? And they'll be like, "Oh, well, here you go talking about this thing again." And really it's not us talking about a political view or a label, but really it's actually what's happening.
Yeah.
And there are individuals that are so out of the word of God that it's their personal opinion,
Yeah.
and their prejudice they have against our colleagues, that they're like, no, like it's harder, man. It's harder for a woman to get into a pastoral leadership position,
Yeah.
in some conferences because of just who they are. They could be better preachers, better teachers, better pastors in general, visiting, caring people,
Oof.
but just because of who they are, and the way that they're received, it's crazy.
So let me illustrate it like this. You know, in scripture, a lot of us we don't even pay attention to it, to this story and through this lens. But you remember when, of course, God called Abraham out of his father's house,
Right.
right? He's like, "Hey, separate. I have something specifically for you." So he calls him out, and Abraham and God are now building their relationship.
Mhm.
So Abraham is in the infancy of his relationship with God. And Abraham is learning what it means to be a follower of Christ. He's learning. Okay.
Right.
So he doesn't understand the statutes, he doesn't understand um, God's holiness. He doesn't understand it. And so, slowly but surely, God has to teach him and God has to direct him so that he understands what it means to operate as a believer, because Abraham was indeed a pagan.
Right.
He only knew what it meant to operate within his pagan religion. And so we see this specifically when he goes to Egypt. And when he goes to Egypt, he comes up with a plan with his wife, Sarah, where he says, Sarah, I'm going to call you my sister.
Mhm.
Because if I don't call you my sister, Pharaoh is just going to take you and he's going to kill me. And so I'm going to call you my sister. And so they get into the land. He calls Sarah his wife. He demotes her as his sister.
Right.
And what ends up happening is he allows her to be taken
Mhm.
to Pharaoh's house.
Right.
Now, if you really think about what was going on, he was essentially selling her off so that he could get by peacefully. That's what was really happening, because Pharaoh was going to essentially take her as one of his concubines, one of his side pieces, and he was going to have his way with her. However, God came to Pharaoh at night and said, "Do not lay your hands on this girl." And so Pharaoh, he's now confronted by the real God, the true God, and what ends up happening is he gets Abraham and says, Abraham, why did you lie? Why did you say that this woman was your sister when she was actually your wife? And see, if you run past all of this, you might just think, oh, Abraham needed to have faith in God. He needed to trust that God will make a way. That's good. No ifs, ands, or buts about that.
Right.
But you also need to understand what Abraham was saying about how he viewed Sarah
Right.
and how he viewed women and what a wife was to her husband by what he did. Because if he really understood what it meant to be united, to be one flesh, he would not have given up his wife to Pharaoh
Right.
because he understands the institution that was created by God at the beginning. If he was really understanding of how crucial Sarah was to the plan, he would not have said, "Hey, you you can have her."
You go. Yeah. Right.
And so God had to show him, God had to show Abraham, "Hey, you're not the only person who is vital to this plan, but so is she."
Right.
My seed, the seed that's going to change the world, it's not just going to come through you, it's also going to come through
True.
her.
Hmm.
She's important. Your wife is important. And see, in several pagan cultures, they didn't always view wives as important as them.
We didn't.
In their cultures, women were not that important. So it's easy for a man to sell off his wife or to give his wife away. Why? Because in their culture, they could always get another one.
Hmm.
They could always go and get someone who was younger,
Right.
who was probably more appealing in a different way, and use that person. But God had to show him, hey, in my culture, in my holy culture,
Hmm.
this is what it means to be one with your wife.
Yeah.
Where we are together. We're not Your wife is not just something that you can quickly and easily cast aside. No, you need to view yourself as you view your significant other, your
Yeah.
spouse. You two are one. And so Abraham even had to understand the importance of what a woman had in God's eyes. And see, that's the thing. We as human beings do not value other people through the same lens that God does.
Hmm.
We value people less. And men, unfortunately, we value women less than us. And a lot of times
That's true.
it's because we've been taught to do so.
Yeah.
We've been taught to do so.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to illustrate it in that way, man, because you have so many individuals who are getting into relationships, who are dating, and then they're trying to figure out why is it not working. There are a lot of women who are trying to figure out why is this not working? What's going on? And the reality is that a lot of men do not value women in the way that they should. They don't have a correct view of what a woman is to humanity. And
Hmm.
so as a result of that, we see situations like Shannon Sharp messing around with a 20-year-old. Like you're in two totally different phases of life.
Completely. Completely. Even Bill uh, Belichick and his girl, man. That's like she's like 26, right?
Bro, that's just it's weird. It's weird, bro. It's
That's
weird.
weird.
It's weird. It's weird.
And you know what? It's okay to say that too. Like that is weird. Because it it is. Like we're completely two different phases of life. And it's not us because I feel like what some people do is like, hey, we're judging, their love and what they got going on between the both of them, but really it's not us trying to speak into their relationship because they might have a happy relationship and we're happy for that, right? But it's more like, hey, what is the reason that you and I in our age group right now, right, are dating somebody, right? They might have a different reason, and the fact of the matter is that a lot of us are trying to replicate that mindset. And number one, we're not rich enough. Like they got all the money in the world to do whatever they want to do, right? And that attracts a certain level of people,
Yeah.
right? Good and bad.
Yeah.
And if your mindset is to become like that and have that lifestyle, man, can I like I, I'm not sure how many celebrities and rich individuals I've seen that are lonely in that sphere, right? Like, because they think
Crazy.
that, right, like having that person that looks like that way, right, is what it means to have life, but it's not, right? It's someone that gets you, someone that understands you, someone that's there for you in the ups and downs that helps you to build yourself up, and you help them
Yeah.
as well, man. So like, I'm really hoping that we as a church can start that turnaround of what healthy relationship would look like, because it it was a little bit disappointing, bro. Because like Shannon Sharp, right, is someone that's really like a matter of fact type of person.
Now, here's the thing. I can't say I'm surprised, right? I can't say I'm
Really?
surprised. Yes, Shannon has questionable behavior, like even
Mhm.
as a black man, right? He
Yeah.
like all kinfolk, all skin folk and kinfolk, and I don't know if you ever heard that before, but there are some raccoons out there, who live a certain way, and don't actually understand the culture, and they begin to speak on the culture, and I, so I say all that to say that I'm not surprised.
You're
I'm not
surprised.
surprised because he's not married. He's not married. You know.
Like it's it's not the marriage part because I knew that he was single, but it's more like, bro, you're gonna go that low, like that, like that, like you have the money, you have the fame, you have the stage, the prestige. Why jeopardize all of that? Because I know he's smarter than that. Like I
Yeah.
think it's more like that. Like I know, like you got to where you are because you are smart and
Yes.
because you can think through things, right?
Let me say this. Let me say this because you're right. Marriage is not the end goal for everyone, right? Not everyone needs to be married. Um, I will say this though: if you're going to interact with people of the opposite sex, and in that way, in such an intimate way, I think you should be. I think you should be married.
Right.
Um, I could see if he was just like a no, I'm okay being single, and I just want women friends. I don't want no friends with benefits. I'm not trying to have sex. I'm not trying to enter into any sexual relationship with women. I am just trying to be. I'm just trying to be here. But he is doing that.
Hmm.
He is doing that. And so that lets me know that he wants some form of release, some form of intimacy. He wants something.
Yeah.
And this is where it comes up because here's something else that I was thinking as like a why do we find situations like this? Of course, I talked about the fact that hey, a lot of guys we don't really like the women that we interact with all the time. We just want to enter. We just want to experience them. Um, in addition, I've also found that we are taught to dominate women,
Hmm.
um, or to conquer, um, which is why a lot of guys they like the chase, because they want to be able to prove to themselves that I got her.
Hmm.
Like she's a good looking girl. She got probably got a good head on her shoulders. She probably make a certain amount of money. Whatever you prioritize, whatever is important for you in a woman, whether it's her smile, whether it's how good she looks, whether it's her body or the people that she knows, whatever makes her adequate uh prey. That makes me
Right.
cringe, right? Um, you want to conquer that because you want like it's a reflection of yourself. You're saying, I did that. It was me. Like the other guys didn't do it, but I did it. I did
Hmm.
it. I secured that. And so it's more of like a dominance thing so that you can really go back to your guys. And I know there are still a lot of guys who do this. They go back to their guys and they be like, y'all, look at this. I did
Yeah.
this. I did
Yeah.
that. And there are a lot of guys who do that. I didn't like, I thought that stopped at like school, college.
No. Nah.
But there are a lot of guys who are still just like, hey,
Look what I got. Yeah.
that was me. Look at these comments. Look at these text messages. You see that?
Yeah.
That's me. And it's they can hang her up like you said, like a trophy. Either if they get married and she becomes a trophy wife, or if they're in a situationship and they have the pride of knowing that yeah, I did that.
Hmm.
And it's not only her, but I got her too. I got her over there,
Yeah.
and I'm good. And so it's also like a dominance thing. And I just have to say that God did not create us to for that. He didn't create us to dominate humanity. Like he created us to have dominion. over the
Mhm.
land and over the fish and over the birds, but he didn't create us to have dominion and control over other humans. Nah, he created us to be companions with our fellow humans. That's what he created us
Mhm.
for. And so until individuals actually understand why we were created by God, especially men,
Right.
a number of us will always just want to experience certain parts of women with women, um, without actually having the security behind it. Like
Right.
we want sex. We want orgasms. We don't want to be in a committed relationship with them though.
Mhm.
We simply want a piece of the puzzle without having to actually have the responsibility of maintaining the puzzle's integrity.
Mm. Yeah, that's true.
And so we want our cake and we want to eat it too.
Mhm.
And that's the problem. That's the problem with us. And so, I think we have to, like you said, the church has to rework it. I think it's bigger than the church because you got a
Yeah.
lot of people who aren't believers.
Mhm.
It's not even just Christianity. Like you see like this type of ideology amongst various religions,
Yeah.
uh, various faith groups, faith traditions, where individuals value men above women, and
Right.
that's not what God intended. It's not what He created. And I don't like it when individuals misuse Genesis chapter 3 and say that women have less power than men when they misinterpret what God was saying to Adam and Eve. And so yeah, that's what I'll say about that. That's what I'll say
Yeah.
about that. We
Yeah.
ultimately got we have work to do. We have work to
We
do.
do. We
Um,
do.
and so I recognize that if we want to get to a space where we value women in the way that they need to be valued, we need to stop and think for ourselves, how do I look at women? What do I think about women? And I think that if we slow down, we take our time, we'll actually be able to begin calling ourselves out and calling our misogynistic tendencies out so that women can get the proper respect that
Mm.
they deserve.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. And though most that we can do is speak into the spaces that we're in, and that we have influence over. So, what I love about our faith, man, over others, because I do subscribe to our faith, is that our faith
Amen.
is built to respect each other,
Yeah.
while other spaces might not be built, but we're created to be equal, and we have to also show that in our relationship. So I'm really hoping, man, that as we explore that, I don't know what's gonna happen with uh Shannon though, because I heard that he got that 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 it's probably gonna keep going, right? Until
If
there's a settlement.
if he's not guilty, I don't want him to be harmed. Um, but if he is guilty, I believe that like any person who's guilty of a particular crime, they deserve the justice that they will,
Right.
or I guess the consequences. That's probably a better word. That's less confusing. They deserve whatever consequences they will be receiving. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, man. Like I think the best piece of advice that I heard from my undergrad teacher, and she was teaching Paul and his letters,
Mhm.
and she said something along the lines of don't be led and make a decision just because you want something.
Mm,
And she was talking about it in the context of being in a relationship. She said,
mhm.
just because like you want to be with them like that, like don't allow that to be like that could be one reason, but don't let that be the only reason.
Yeah.
Right? Like you need to have multiple reasons you want to be with that person. And if that's the only reason you have to be with that person,
Slow down. Slow down. Slow down.
relax, relax, relax. But man, this was an interesting conversation. Man, I appreciate you, bro, because you brought up a new perspective, and also it's happening right now, and we'd love to hear what other people think about it.
Mhm.
If you know who that is, and if you've heard any situations like him, also within our church, we would love to know what you experienced, and what how you process through that as well, because we process through things differently. Love to have a conversation. go ahead and put something in our chat or in our comment section. Like, share, and subscribe to the Two Young Pastors podcast,
Please.
where we talk about what the lifestyle of ministry looks like and dive into some hot topics as well. We want to thank you for tuning in. You want to share, you want to subscribe because we're getting some views, but you want to subscribe as well, so you know when our episodes drop. But Juwan, it's been a privilege, bro. And until we have our next episode, bro, be safe.
Likewise, man.
Be
Peace.
safe, everyone.